All right, Star Wars fans and Rule the Galaxy fans, we're back here. Another week of Rule the Galaxy podcast. Joe should be coming in at one point during the show. He's a little held up right now, so we've got me, D-Doc, hosting it up right now. We've got two special guests on tonight, so it's definitely going to be a fun show. We've got some Bad Batch talk, and of course, just Star Wars talk, and who knows where it's going to go. That's what happens on Rule the Galaxy podcast. We're going to whip it around the horn here. I'm going to go to Alfie first and say, what's going on to Alfie? How you doing?
Hey, we're doing good. Zalia's here with me for a few minutes before bedtime. She wanted to say hi, and just another crazy week at the Molinaros. We've got sick kids. And
yeah, my sister has her head hurts.
Yeah, she's got a cold.
And
headaches are the worst.
Sore throat.
I had multiple kids in my house with the flu in the last week, and I didn't get it. And I'm always the one who gets sick. So, like, I think we know the baby was okay. She did not get it, or she might have, and just was okay. But my two older ones got it. My wife wasn't feeling good, and I'm always the one who's sick. So somehow I powered through this one.
Yeah, she's the only one so far. But Saturday
I'm not sick.
You're not
Only
sick.
my sister.
She had a volleyball tournament and a basketball tournament. It was in two different cities. So
2 different cities.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my buddies are always like, I feel like you're sick all the time. I'm like, well, I have 3 children that are just constantly gathering germs for me. Like, just wait till you have kids. Like, it's just constant sickness battles. Now on to our next co-host. This is a special day, Brent. Tell everybody what it is.
I mean,
it's your 11th birthday.
It's a special day only because it doesn't exist most of everyone's lifetime. Yeah, somehow, some way, this guy was born in 1980 on February 29th. So this is officially the 11th day that I celebrate my birth on the day that it happened. So it's my birthday. And funnily enough, I was not aware, but my wife has been conspiring behind my back. My dad lives in Ocala, Florida. So they're going to send me there alone on spring break to go hang out with my dad. And when I'm there, my dad hates Disney, but he was like, you know what? I don't know what you're going to do at my place. Why don't you go to Galaxy's Edge and we'll send you to Galaxy's Edge. So I get a trip to Disney Hollywood Studios by myself. Sometime in the middle of March. So in the next couple of weeks during my spring break, I get to fly down, hang out, and ride Smuggler's Run 75 times. And
every single time, you should definitely take the pilot spot, 100% every time.
Exactly.
Don't let a kid do it.
I'm a Chewie guy. I want to punch it and jump into hyperspace.
Okay.
So
I'm actually with him 100% on this. I like to punch it.
yeah. So I've done it once and I punched it. I kind of want to sit on the gunner seats just to see what those are like. But since I'm there by myself, I can just go single rider and just keep recycling and having that. So I feel like I can ride it 75 times.
Stick to what you know. Gunners are lame. Do your thing.
I rode the Chewie position last time and was pressing the buttons, and somehow our group got mixed up, and the pilots did not speak English, and they were not they were not steering the ship at all. And I'm pressing the buttons back there, and I'm just like, I'm leaning forward like, you got to pull them. You go left, you go right. And I was like using my hands to show them what to do. I'm like, this is the only time I'm going to get to ride this today. I don't care. I'm telling these people what to do. I whatever.
So I feel like my pattern's going to be Star Tours, Smuggler's Run, or Rise the Resistance, Smuggler's Run, back to Star Tours, back to Rise the Resistance, back to Smuggler's Run, and just do that all day. Because there's not really much else in Hollywood Studios that is really drawing me.
Tower of Terror.
Yeah, I'm good on that.
Oh,
no,
man,
I don't need to fall. I don't need to fall.
The Twilight Zone, dude. That's the best. I love the Tower of Terror. Well, honestly, I think we should kind of rotate back to this Disney trip at one point during the show. But we're going to get to our special guests here tonight. Like I said, we have two. We have Stephen Kent and Riley Blanton on with us tonight. These guys are running their own podcast together right now. Podcast website, correct? I'll start with Stephen. What's going on with you guys? You guys have a lot going on.
We're just, we're movers and shakers. We're innovators. And that's why we were like, let's start a podcast, bro. The people out there are clamoring for podcasts.
That's right. Yep. Another geek podcast. Yes.
Yep. Yeah. So Riley and I have pioneered and put together geekystoics.com. It's a Substack newsletter that puts out a blast like every week. Mostly free content focused on the philosophy of different major pop culture properties. So like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and then you get kind of weird crap in between, like The Mask of Zorro and Avatar: The Last Airbender. So it's a podcast and also now a YouTube channel that we're building from ground up.
Love it. And now, Stephen, you've done the book How the Force Can Fix the World, and Riley, you ran the Star Wars Report podcast, which obviously was super popular as well in the Star Wars community. So
back when I was relevant. Yeah.
Why don't you tell like anyone who hasn't heard from you guys yet, like, and once Stephen comes back, because I see that he's kind of like popping off to the side. But how did you guys connect with each other and start working together? Like, how many years back did you guys kind of meet each other? And yeah,
sure, yeah. No, it was back. Celebration Europe was like the first time that I was familiar with Beltway Banthas, Stephen's kind of foray into the world of politics and Star Wars. Because if there's one thing that Star Wars needed more of, that I actually personally can blame, I think we can all blame Stephen. For the rise of politics in Star Wars, it is because of Beltway Banthas.
Yep, single-handedly.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we did that. We were like, you know what Star Wars needs? A little like Hannity and Colmes action, pundits yelling at each other about the Galactic Senate.
Little crossfire.
Yeah, exactly. A little crossfire action. No, I really felt like it was pioneering at the time. And so like we did it in 2015 was when we cooked up the idea, and we rolled out in 2016. Beltway Banthas still when the Republican primary was still going on. So it wasn't quite yet Hillary versus Trump. It was still in the primary season. So he still had to cook Ted Cruz. And we wanted to do a show that took on politics and Star Wars directly, because a lot of Star Wars podcasts will like veer into it and then they go like abort, change. All right, guys, that was too much. Change topics. And I was like, all right, what if we just had a show that like dug in and like, this is what we do here. And did it for, I don't know, 4.5, 5 years, like on and off, with a couple breaks in between.
You had some pretty hot. Oh, sorry. You had some pretty like high profile guys on the Beltway Banthas. Like, so as far as like politics, like Marco, you mentioned one time when you were on, was it Marco Rubio or?
Not Marco Rubio. Probably one of the bigger guests that we had on was radio broadcaster and conservative pundit Glenn Beck. We were able to get on Congressman Derek Kilmer. We had a couple of different run-ins with like Van Jones from CNN. Just the general purpose of Beltway Banthas was that there are a lot of politicos out there, like lawmakers and also media people who would love to talk about something besides politics for once. And so we just were like, all right, we'll be the outlet for that.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's one of the best parts about Star Wars is like you can kind of have anybody from any walk of life with any opinion of politics. And I feel like you can kind of all unite around Star Wars sometimes, and it might not matter. You know what I mean? I mean, we have people from all different opinions on this podcast, and we always seem to get along. Everyone always says the Star Wars community is always at each other's throats, fighting with each other and everything like that. But I don't know. Once you get together and start talking with people, things usually kind of work out, you know?
Riley,
Dave,
your
give it
focus
time.
determines your reality, does it not?
Something like that. Also, give it time, Dave. Just give it time. No, that's true. But and that's Stephen. That's why I brought up Beltway Banthas, because that I think ties right into that time frame of Star Wars Report, which is also in its sort of I would say heyday around that same time. So we naturally overlapped a lot. But we've known each other for years, just through like the Star Wars podcasting world, and I think it was when we collaborated on like a season of episodes for Beltway Banthas. It was sort of like the final run of episodes for the podcast, which I'm super proud of. It was really fun. I stepped behind the scenes as just like the pure producer editor, and I think it's some of the best Star Wars podcasting content that's ever been done. And pat myself on the back or something like that. But like Stephen had this really great vision for the conversations that were already really high quality, but like what that would look like as I would say a more narrative style podcast, like in the serial format that a lot of other people do very well, where it's very well constructed, well written storytelling around current events. And honestly, like we did some pretty heavy episodes as politics, So the bad news, Stephen, is, as you well remember, 2016 was not the end of intense politics in the world of American culture. And so as that increased, I think it gave an opportunity for that final round of episodes, which are still available anywhere you can find Beltway Banthas.
Yeah, it's true. Because actually, this reminds me, because Riley was doing Star Wars Report, I was doing Beltway Banthas, and we had a lot in common and a lot of shared interests. We loved talking about the politics of Star Wars, and I always felt like when Riley would have me on to the Star Wars Report, it was always like, we got to be very careful, right? That's true, right? Like it was always like, let's not go overboard here, because the Star Wars Report audience expected something a little bit different. And then at some point we had a change of the guard at Beltway Banthas. It ended up me being solo after a time having an awesome co-host. And then Riley stepped in as producer and like really turned the show into, again, like something just like a little bit more artsy and beautiful and well packaged than just like a Star Wars talk debate show, which is what it sort of was before. Again, kind of like in the CNN Crossfire or Fox News Hannity and Combs format. And it was awesome. My only big regret with that show is actually that we canned it, but right before Andor, right before Andor came out was when Beltway Banthas. Yeah, and I had shelved Beltway Banthas twice and like gone, this is the end, and picked it up twice. And so once Andor came out, I was like, could I pick it up a third time? But I convinced myself, I was like, no, that's just, you got to stop.
No one's ever really gone. I mean, we saw that with Palpatine. Anything can come back.
Yeah, and that's the thing about podcasting is we talk about this a lot, is it's really easy to sometimes take it too seriously, where you think like more people are watching and judging your actions than really are. So it's like, we canned the show, and then we kind of had like a feeling of pride, like, well, we can't bring it back. People would be like, oh, why are you bringing it back again? In reality, there's like, 10 engaged people who would care. The show did good on listeners, but people are never like judging you as much as you are judging yourself. And that's like the thief of joy when it comes to podcasting.
That is true. And I have some comments here from Cody. Star Wars is the human condition personified, which means that in a divisive time, it can be divisive. Which that's interesting. You guys have any thoughts on that comment, Stephen or Riley?
Yeah, no, Cody, I think that's well put, because I think sometimes we can blame Star Wars fans for becoming increasingly political or divisive or vitriolic, especially online, when that's just sort of the state of culture. I think it's perfectly put. But I think it's a reality that we had to deal with. That I think I won't speak for you, Stephen, but certainly for me, I think the natural end of the season of Star Wars Report and kind of why we did close that, and I think Beltway Banthas might also be in this way, is that it was sort of a natural conclusion based on where kind of fandom had gotten alongside my fandom. So my passion as a Star Wars fan remains about the same as it always has been, but my passion to be like a Star Wars specific creator had definitely waned, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But I do think that's sort of that's why Geeky Stokes kind of became a natural progression, because it was, one, a way to talk about more other nerd things that we're passionate about, but two, kind of puts a purpose and a lens through which I'd kind of already come to view Star Wars. Like, if you listen to the Star Wars Report, often we would cover the news in the format of the show, but often it would just be like we would revert to some analysis on like the theme of redemption or courage or something in the film, and just like talk about that, or in like the latest Clone Wars episodes. And that's kind of why I think Geeky Stokes became a natural way to like, I'm still out there talking about Star Wars on the internet. Now it's just through the lens of philosophy and kind of like looking at the meaning of the stories that we like.
Now, Riley, you also grew up through the podcasting world, if I'm not mistaken, right? You were pretty young when you got into the game and got a following and got a listening. So do you think that had a control? Do you think that's some of the reason why the Geeky Stoics came from this? Because you matured and your fandom matured and stuff like that. Do you think that had an impact on the way you feel now?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it really, and that's where I think I can barely remember a time where my fandom wasn't defined by my experience as someone creating online content. Because I was 19. I was 19 when I started the Star Wars Report, and did it for about 11 years, not quite. And so that whole chapter of my life, I became really passionate and excited about Star Wars right at the end of the prequels through my high school years. So I had a few years as I like discovered Star Wars, and then there was this moment where I discovered the Force Cast in 2007. I'll never forget the very first episode that I heard, and it just like the fact that there was a radio program, essentially a talk radio show. I love talk radio, but I had no idea that there was Star Wars talk radio, and this is the infancy of Star Wars podcasts. There was a handful maybe at the time, and like the next year I started Star Wars Report, and pretty much never looked back.
Yeah, and that's like a good reminder too that like, there's Star Wars talk radio, and like Rebel Force Radio comes to mind. Those guys work in radio in the Midwest, so they already like know the art. And when people talk about like politicizing Star Wars and politics being in the Star Wars fandom, people do it different ways. It's a reflection of different cultures that they come from. People to the political left and, just living out in the world who engage in Star Wars content, they have a way of like weaving it into their podcasts and making it about their values and the way that the things that they talk about. But people from the political right who make Star Wars content, they make YouTube content that is like in the vein of conservative media. It's like your Nerdrotics of the world. The guys that bounding into comics, which I've done some work on and off with. And it's remarkable because it's like, oh, like they're taking notes on real media formats from the real world and just applying it to a different thing. Everything that like Critical Drinker does, like Critical Drinker is just like, I'm following the Daily Wire model, but doing it for movie reviews. And it's cool. I just think that's one of the really neat things about entertainment media.
Yeah, and the freedom of creators to just kind of be able to get out there and do whatever you want. I mean, it's weird. You start something, you don't know what's going to happen. It's like, I mean, I have my own page that I do like plumbing tips and everything on, where I just started doing it just because I wanted to be able to send my friends videos when they had like plumbing problems. Like, and because I was sick of sending like 30 texts or 40 texts to them. And then like I was doing it through TikTok to edit it. And then I started getting all these views on it. I was like, wait a second. I'm like, this could actually be something. It's like weird. I don't know. It's the beauty of the internet. The internet can be a scary place for some people, or you could use it as a good tool.
And I think that's like the
Yeah.
perfect point to say like why we do Geeky Stoics is because we often go back to, as our mantra, your focus determines your reality. That is Qui-Gon Jinn in Star Wars Episode 1 talking to young Anakin Skywalker on Coruscant. And that's like the piece of advice that, well, maybe next to what Shmi said to him about how the world is always changing, and that you can't stop it, just like you can't stop the sun from setting. But your focus determines your reality is like a way to live your life. The kind of things that you spend your attention on, the books that you read, the Twitter habits that you have are going to like make you think that the world is a certain way. I've currently, like the past week, I have had a problem with Twitter. I've been overusing it. I've been pretty disciplined, like on and off for months now, but this week I've really been going hard. And it's like no coincidence that I feel more dour about the state of the world. And I think people are nasty and mean, and there's so many awful things going on. But when I had it like turned off for a couple of months, ignorance is bliss. I had a better reality, a different reality. So that's like what we try to remind people of with Geeky Stoics is grab onto little pieces of advice from Star Wars that are applicable to adult life.
Absolutely. And I mean, your site is excellent. I'm actually going to bring up the site on here. Brent, do you have any questions while I'm getting this site? I just want to share it with the audience.
You caught me in trying to figure out what my next step is in my hobbying. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk about that for 30 seconds. So I play a game called Star Wars Legion, right? So I don't know if you guys have ever heard about it. It's a little miniature game, but I also like to make the terrain. So I'm currently making a Dathomir inspired terrain set. So these are like the Dathomir with like the necromancer pods. So I'm currently trying to figure out which one I was going to grab while he was asking me the question. Do you guys have anything outside of maybe the movies and the book? Like what pulls your nerddom in?
Well,
and it could be
Frodo
other
on
nerddom.
here, so that fires me up that I already see Frodo and Lord
You're
of the
fired
Rings
up by
here.
Frodo.
Yeah, I mean, I
didn't know this about Riley. So Riley, I thought was a Star Wars first goth. I thought, Riley and I loved radio and Star Wars. And then it turns out when I got to know Riley a little better, Lord of the Rings was his first baby.
That's true.
And I didn't know that at all about him. And so now I have sort of had my old liking of Lord of the Rings rekindled by Riley, because Riley's passion has sort of turned my like of Lord of the Rings into love. Because I didn't love it before, but I kind of do now.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, no, I roped Steven in. We did kind of an experiment with Geeky Stoics. We did like a Geeky Stoics themed book club this past January. We read Fellowship of the Ring, and which is good work on my part, because Steven's much more of a prolific writer for me than me. We both contribute. You'll find both of us are writing on the site, but Steven, like, there's been an outpouring of, I've noticed, Lord of the Rings themed content, and I'm like, yes, my evil plan worked. Getting Steven into Fellowship again.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I love it. And Fellowship is like Fellowship has kind of randomly become one of my favorites out of all of them as I've gotten older. And it's kind of like the same with the Star Wars effect. Lord of the Rings has had the same effect with me. When I was younger, Two Towers was my favorite movie. Yeah. And then as I've gotten older, I love the Fellowship because I just love seeing the beginning and everybody coming together and starting the journey together, and everybody's disagreeing, but they still do find a way to, come up with a plan. And I don't know. Fellowship is a great movie.
There was like a meme I saw about this the other day, and it was like a scene from The Shire and the Fellowship of the Ring, and it was like me when I'm 12, like it was like falling asleep, right? And then it's me when I'm 42, watching the Shire scenes, and you're just like, what a paradise. and that, I think that's true. You, at an older age, you go back and watch Fellowship of the Ring, and there's all these kind of slow paced scenes in the Shire that are just cute and beautiful and relaxed, and you're like, this is great. I'm just gonna go pour some tea and watch this movie. But yeah, I remember when I was a kid, I was pretty bored, and so I liked Two Towers.
I would agree with that, because I always found that the hardest of the three books to read, to get through.
It was,
Fellowship.
let's see, and it's a challenge. Like I knew when we picked, like we were gonna go back and read it. I know you have to get through the Tom Bombadil chapter, and if I could get Steven past the Tom Bombadil chapter to like stick with it, then everything else kind of falls into place.
It's a really long part of the book, like when you sit down and read it, compared to what you expect from just how. I mean, yes, it seems long in the movie, but in the book, it is a really long.
Really long.
And Sam's
Yeah.
don't forget Sam's connection with his horse in the book that wasn't totally shown in the movie as well. What's his
Right.
horse's name again?
True, yeah.
Bill.
Yeah.
Bill the pony.
Yeah.
It's like the attitude of the Ents about having a discussion about going to war is what the Fellowship of the Ring feels like. We will think about moving the narrative forward.
It's not as streamlined as the movie, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I wonder what went into their thinking with just like totally ruling Tom Bombadil out of the movies, actually. Like, has there ever been like an article where Peter Jackson or anyone was just like, yeah, we talked about it and decided?
Yeah,
not
I've
to?
read some about it. It's been a long time since I read, the interviews with him, and there was an effort, I think, but it just never quite fit and really disrupted the flow of that film.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Go ahead,
goes
Brent.
back to like it's a book. I'm not the best of readers. It didn't really hold me. And then when I was talking to the kids, like the middle school kids, when they were reading it and loving it, and then when they showed me the pages in Elfish, I'm like, huh? There's like 30 to 40 pages. They're just in a completely foreign language that you don't even know what's going on.
My keyboard is literally a map of my mouse pad is Middle Earth right here. I got this on Amazon, so I was like, that is like awesome.
I think so. I know that there's levels of fantasy, right? And I want my fantasy to have some realism. And when you go to a completely new world, like I don't think I would have enjoyed reading Game of Thrones. I enjoyed watching Game of Thrones because it did a lot of the translation of the different languages, the different types of people, the different aliens for that matter, the different cultures. It translated it for me, and I wouldn't have to translate it myself. So like high level fantasy stuff just is lost on me. So you guys can enjoy you some Lord of the Rings books. I'll watch my movies, and I'll tell you that The Two Towers is probably the one that I go back to the most.
Brent, get the Game of Thrones audiobooks with Roy Dotrice narrating them, and I promise you will enjoy the hell out of them. You really
Doesn't
will.
Schmiegel narrate them too?
No, he did Lord of the Rings, but you were talking about Game of Thrones books.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
If you don't think Game of Thrones translates to the show, get the audiobooks. Those books are like 40 hours long, and I've ran through them multiple times. It's like one of the few audiobooks where I'm just like, I think I'm going to listen to this again. Like,
I mean, I have a coworker that's got me into the Red Rising. So does anybody know Red Rising?
Joe is here. I'm bringing him in.
So Red Rising is just it's another like Hunger Games
I think,
in space.
I think Joe's Red Rising actually because of that timing.
I'll let it go. Yeah.
He has arrived.
Red Rising is over my head, boys. Not on to the Red Rising. So I apologize. I'll add it to my list. So if you think I need to read it, listen to it.
I mean, it's a 6-book series that it has a pretty good fan following. I'm 3 books in. Take it or leave it, but I'm kind of now I feel like I'm pot committed because I'm 3 of 6 books in. So got to see it through.
Yeah.
And Joe, to catch you up, we've really kind of just been talking about Geeky Stoics and kind of just hitting on a few topics on what these guys are up to. We haven't hit on Bad Batch or anything else yet, and I'm virtually handing the torch over to you.
Great. Go ahead, Riley.
I successfully derailed the show into Lord of the Rings discussion, and I'm very excited about that.
Well, one of my discussion points for the evening was that Riley Blanton is he's cut from the same cloth as Steve Glosson and Scott Rifen. So if anyone's going to derail a show, it would be the Riley guy.
I've learned from the best. I have
the boys right here sitting on the shelf at all times.
My boys.
Nice.
Well, thank you for letting me come in. I'll give you a quick rundown. One, my son is super busy with the NFL combine stuff that's going on here in Indy. My dog's going to say hello, dog.
Where's he looking to get drafted?
Hey, well, I wish he was getting drafted. He is not getting
NFL
drafted.
Network.
Well,
Gonna get drafted by the NFL Network.
he's going to be on the NFL Network this Saturday with Rich Eisen and Daniel Jeremiah for you football fans out there. And so today through Saturday is basically a job fair for Joey. He's meeting and greeting with all the NFL teams, all the networks. And he went to dinner with some people this evening and he said, "Hey, can you watch our 1.5-year-old and our 1-month-old," to me and my wife, which it wouldn't be good for either one of us to do on our own. So we said, yes, we'll do that. Unfortunately, as my son will listen to this podcast and discuss, he lives 45 minutes away. So that is where my dilemma came in with him doing that and us being good parents and grandparents, I guess. So it's weird to say those words. So yeah, but I'm glad you guys have been doing all the fun stuff and the heavy lifting before I got here. I really appreciate Stephen. Always great to see you. Riley, just
You too, Joe.
going back to the old Star Wars Report days. It's like listening to an old friend here when I see and hear you on the screen. So you guys have done some great things. I know you talked about Geeky Stoic, so I won't go into that. But to derail for a moment before we jump into our good friend, The Bad Batch, and other things Star Wars related, I have been listening to the audiobook of Billy D. Williams. That man, I'm halfway through. We're not to anything Star Wars yet. That man has lived quite the colorful life. I will tell you, if you haven't checked it out,
I really need to.
Yeah, it's so much. Born in 1937. So I can only tell you what his life was all about.
Like colorful in the way that Lando has had a colorful life.
100. This character, Lando, was created based off Billy D. Williams. I mean,
hey there, ladies, droids.
And the times in this book where he's like, "So I'm at a party, and these people wanted to smoke, so we did," and then he'll go, "Next thing you know, there's 8 people naked in the room," and I'm like, "Wow, okay, Billy, great."
And I'm not one to walk away from a challenge.
100%, yes.
And then I saw this droid sitting over there.
Come on, all are welcome.
Joe, does he narrate it?
That's the great part. The 80-plus-year-old Billy D. Williams is narrating the book, so
awesome.
You can tell it's very labored Billy D. Williams. Like, it's not Lando Billy D. It's it's Rise of Skywalker Billy D. Obviously reading it, so there's a lot of effort that goes into it. But yeah, it's just, I will say, if you've got the time, it's only, I want to say 12 hours audiobook. Well worth it. I'm 6.5 hours in, not even to the mid 70s yet. It's crazy. So yeah, that's just a little fun that I've been doing. And for those of you who didn't hear a week or so ago, I was lucky enough to get an early edition of the John Jackson Miller Living Force book. And I'm not allowed to discuss it, but what I will tell you is I'm halfway through that book, and it's really, really cool. So it's a year before the Phantom Menace, and cannot wait until the embargo is off of me to where at the end of March I can talk about it. So, but you'll enjoy it. So, especially guys like Riley who are prequel children. So,
the word is fanatics.
All I know is Riley always brought up the love theme.
Amen.
The love theme from Attack of the Clones. Oh, yes, Attack of the Clones. Was that right, Riley? Was that the
Across the Stars?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was his
The
go-to jam.
all-time greats.
Well,
Mhm.
it's still up there, and it makes everybody think of Padme Amidala and Natalie Portman. So that's a good thing. So I missed so much. Anything new or good going on in anybody's lives? D-Doc had his hand up, so I'll start with him.
Well, I was just
That
going to
is
say,
amen, amen, brother.
I was just gonna say, I know we're doing something good when Joe is saying that he's waiting for the embargo to drop so he can talk about it. That means that we're doing something here at Rule the Galaxy podcast. It's a great thing.
Yeah, we are doing good things. And not only do we have these two great guests this evening, but for our 250th episode next week, I'd love to say this. I've never gotten a chance to interview this gentleman, but Mr. Steve's Fan Suite of Rancho Obi-Wan will be with us on the show. And man, pretty cool. The people we've talked to in the past 249 episodes, and then to add him to the list is exciting. Can't wait to hear all the stories from this guy. He's seen a little bit of everything. So, have either one of you interviewed him? Riley, you had to have interviewed him.
I bet Riley has.
Riley might be frozen.
Yeah. Frozen and lost to time. I would bet that he has, but I can't confirm. I have not.
Okay.
No.
Stephen, I know you started a lot of the things recently with your podcast and everything. And again, I'm belaying our start to the Bad Batch, but your daughter, I forget, how old is your daughter now?
13.
Oh, you're in the fun time. That's
yes, the fun has just begun.
Yeah. I got 12, so I'm right there too. So.
Yep,
Yeah.
Mine's 12, and she became really fun about 6 months ago.
Yeah, it's getting spicy.
Yeah, I can see that.
Not yet, but
Do any of the three of you, because D-Doc's nowhere near these age levels, do any of the three of you get a chance to mix and mingle Star Wars discussions into your talks of growing up and morality with these young ladies?
Oh my God. She's never gotten a day break from it. Yeah. No. I feel bad for her sometimes. She just can't escape. Every single time we're talking about an issue and I'm trying to explain something going on in the news or Congress, I'm just like, it's kind of like, when Anakin and Padme, and how he couldn't just like let it go, and his desire to control just led him down a dark road. And honey, that's like what's going on with, this congressman or something. We talk about everything on our house, and Star Wars is usually the medium to explain it all.
It's a good place to go. Good place. And Riley, if I'm not mistaken, as you hop back into this crazy conversation, you somewhat newly married, correct? Not long in the marriage department. 4 years?
Yeah, in 4 years next month.
Holy cow, that was on
Nice.
fast forward.
Flies, man.
Yeah. And no little Blantons running around anywhere.
Just the puppy so far.
Good.
That's an Ewok. Thank you very much.
Well, again, I always like to throw some little side things in here. Have we talked about Dune 2 coming out? I just had to ask because we're with these masters of all fandoms with us. Has anybody seen Dune 1? And are we talking Dune 2?
Where are they? No.
Can I ask a question? Has anyone seen the popcorn lids for Dune 2?
The Dune bucket?
Yeah.
They are both kind of amazing and slightly
how did that get approved?
Slightly disturbing at the same time.
Have you seen the SNL skit on this?
No, I have not
seen
an SNL skit on that.
So you have to just like pull up another YouTube browser and search SNL Dune popcorn bucket, and it's this guy just like giving an ode to his popcorn bucket that he's fallen in love with, and it's obviously.
Oh my God.
What was everyone in the room at this meeting? Were they just afraid to like say something about it because they didn't want to be outed?
Oh, I think they knew exactly what they were doing. We live in a very meme savvy marketer culture. I think they knew exactly what they were doing, and I think they let SNL know. Like they were like,
"Oh my God,
okay,
all right." I'm just sitting next, so yeah. All right.
Run away.
Popcorn bucket, take it home and fuck it.
Now, on the other hand, this is also my brain. Because I play Star Wars Legion and I build terrain, it looks like a damn Sarlacc pit. Like
Yeah,
I could take the top
totally.
of it off, paint it up, and turn it into a
Mhm.
Sarlacc pit, among other things. If you so choose, Pee Wee Herman
Yes.
would have enjoyed this popcorn bucket.
Mm,
I think you would have turned it upside down.
no.
Yeah, I mean that's one of those things on the internet where you see it and you're just like, oh my god, let me get to the comment section on this and just
Yeah.
see what people are putting up in here. And of course, the first thing is that GIF of Shrek just like kind of giving that look where he's like, yeah, you know.
I love this kind of stuff. It's just, it's just like the Willy Wonka and Glasgow story,
Oh.
with just, them putting together this Willy Wonka exhibit. It's just a horror show and makes for great photos. And it's just the Dune popcorn bucket. It's just very meme worthy. So, bravo to them. I actually don't know much about Dune, like as a fandom person. I did finally read Dune before the first Dune movie came out with Timothée Chalamet, and then I got to be in the position of being one of those fans who was like, the book was better. And it was. I fell asleep in Dune 1. It was
slow.
It was so slow,
Yeah.
but also
slow.
the pulsating soundscapes, like the soundtrack.
Yeah.
So it was just like what I would like to sleep to is like the sounds. And so yeah, I passed right out. And I'm excited to go see the second one. I guess it's gonna be cool, but I don't know. It's just kind of one of those movies. It's like, congratulations, you can create a landscape and make a really, really amazing image, like Denis Villeneuve. That's like his whole thing. And entertaining is not high on his list.
I would agree.
Another one of my takeaways from Dune 1 is basically it was a Marlon Brando Apocalypse Now. That the gangster leader reminded me of like Marlon Brando's character in Apocalypse Now, the one that like went into the oil and then started floating up.
Oh
There
yeah.
was just some sort of like this like whoo, like I don't know. It was a really odd character, and there's a lot of stuff going on that I feel like if you didn't know the books, you would be completely lost on. Felt like they had to explain it to you because you needed to know that to go to Dune 2. Almost like Rebel Moon, right? I'm going to throw that one in there since we're talking. Like Rebel Moon felt like it was doing something similar. Like you were putting the gang together, and hopefully there's something more when you get to Rebel Moon Part 2 when it gets dropped. But so that's kind of my Dune takeaways. I'd watch it. I kind of want to see it on big screen, though. I feel like that is one that I feel like if you are going to watch it, you should watch it in an IMAX setting because of the enormity that they're trying to create, right? I might fall asleep to it, just like Steven said, but like I think soundscape, the pictures, the enormity of it, I think it lends itself to an IMAX.
I'm like Steven. I kind of dozed off in the first one, and my friends are so into it. They were like, "We gotta see Dune." I was like, "All right, we'll go see Dune."
Yeah.
I've never.
It's art.
It's
You just don't understand.
You
It
don't
took me like
understand it.
3 times to get through it. I thought it was so boring. It was a
I
beautiful movie.
feel vindicated
but-
by all this. Yeah.
It really took me out of the movie. I know with Star Wars, with everything, you have to kind of have a moment of letting go and not being so nitpicky. But starting the movie and saying that you rose to power because of your Air Force and Navy, and then you immediately get defeated, that just takes me out of the film. I needed a little more.
Timothée Chalamet's cheekbones didn't keep you in the game,
No.
though, there,
No.
Alfie.
You get they even knew that they were coming for them, and they still got caught by surprise.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the cheekbones. They knew about the cheekbones.
I'm a fan of him,
Chalamet.
actually. I got to admit,
No,
I like
he's
him
great.
in that movie, The King. That was.
I
on
really
that
wanted
movie.
to like
he was
the movie
so
because
good
it
in The
looked so
King.
good.
So good
Yeah.
in The King. I do think Chalamet is fantastic. Like Lady Bird, The King, and then there's that movie with Steve Carell. I want to make sure that I get the name right. What is it? It's like The Good Son. Here it is. Beautiful Boy. Beautiful Boy is his best
Yeah.
movie.
That's
where
when we
he-
had the drug problem.
Yeah, he's like a the drug addict child, and Steve Carell is his dad, and he's just like doing everything he can to save him. He's like on like meth and heroin and stuff. It's real bad. It's a tough movie, and Chalamet just blows it out of the water. But yeah,
Cool.
he was
Good.
cool in Dune. I mean, anybody looks cool in a cloak that awesome. My favorite thing about Dune actually was also just the costuming. The Leto Atreides and Paul at the beginning of Dune in those black crisp uniforms, like very imperial. I was just like into the movie just because everyone looked awesome. And then I got lost and fell asleep.
The Night Sister Jedi type were just weird when they would scream and
Anyways.
I did get the pleasure today of, because I wanted to find out, how the second movie was it worth watching? So I hit up a Dune subreddit, and wow, I thought Star Wars subreddits were brutal. That one took it to another level. Those people are super passionate about Dune.
So they enjoyed the movie, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, but anyone that didn't, it was, like Elmo watching the, atomic bomb meme. It was
so
all out for
the fans are enforcing like that it's great.
Yes.
So in the forums, the consensus opinion is this is what we've always wanted.
Yes.
And if you don't like it, get out. Okay.
Joe didn't know that question was going to take us down a wormhole.
I didn't. Wow.
Whoa.
Full circle.
I'll see you guys all at Dune Celebration 2025. Yeah.
I'll bring the sand.
It took me like 5 seconds to realize the worm joke, but well done.
You gotta be quick, Steven. We move fast on Rule the Galaxy.
I'll hit one more before we jump into Bad Batch talk. And this will go right down the alley for Riley. Is everybody? We talked about it briefly. Everybody's pumped for the Phantom Menace coming out May 3rd on theaters, and are we interested to see if the Acolyte and the Phantom Menace both being near each other, that there's going to be some things it's like a refresher course, all those kind of things?
I'd be curious. I don't know. I think, because I remember this news broke actually while Steven and I were at Atlanta Comic Con. We had a table, like a table for Geeky Stoics. We were doing the thing, and I remember Steven, you're the one who said, "Hey, they're bringing it back. Star Wars is coming back to the big screen finally." Not a new movie, because God forbid. But the Phantom Menace is coming. I'm hyped. I love it. I think it's probably definitely geared towards like the already baptized. I don't know that it's going to be part of a larger marketing push for the Acolyte, but maybe it is. I'd be really curious to see. I'm really honestly, I think the Acolyte is one of the shows with the most potential for the Disney Plus series.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think if they do tie it in, it would make sense, which is why they probably won't.
Well, I think it's great. I mean, I'm looking forward to actually going and seeing it in the theater. I mean, we've all had 25 years of watching it, but you don't get a chance to go see these too often in theaters. And I was lucky enough to go see The Return of the Jedi when it came out. What, a year? Was it last year?
For the 40th.
Yeah. And it was just fun to be in the theater and see that what you've been watching on a smaller screen for years. So I'm looking forward to it. And hey, segue time. Just like I'm looking forward to the rest of the Bad Batch. I was not a big Bad Batch fan like Alfie. We were working our way through it and seeing some good things from it, but guys, I think season 3 might tie a nice bow on some things and bring some things together.
Yeah,
I don't want to be controversial. Oh, sorry, Katrasi. I was just going to say briefly, I don't want to be controversial, but I actually think it might be like a decent batch. It's like
well done.
I see what you did there. I picked up on that one. So I mentioned at the beginning, I've not seen any of the new season of Bad Batch yet, but I am not averse to spoilers. In fact, sometimes I like it. So like, tell me what's going on. Like, what is so exciting about this season? Because I've heard a lot about the Emperor and that that they are really pushing forward, a lot of the Camino and
Mhm.
Empire plot. So what's happened so far and what's exciting about it?
Go ahead, Alfie.
There is almost zero possibility that the Bad Batch will be doing jobs for Sid anymore. That's probably the most exciting thing.
No more side quests
No.
for XP grinding.
I mean, that's
is
basically
totally
what it was, right?
Yeah.
What it is.
Yeah.
They've already leveled up. They've hit their level 10. They're
But people
they can now
are talking
finish.
about like Bad Batch is helping to save, the Palpatine return thing from the sequels. Is that where this is going?
I can see it.
100%.
Yeah.
So-
100%.
Yes.
All right, explain it to me.
So Steven, did you read any of the early Thrawn trilogy? Like the first one,
I
Heir to
have.
the Empire.
Heir to the Empire,
Oh,
Dark
you-
Force.
You're talking about like the OG stuff.
Yeah, the
with
OG like
Imperial
90s stuff.
yeah, with like
Yeah.
cloning of the Emperor and stuff like that.
Basically, yeah.
I'm familiar. I would not say that I read
Okay,
it. all.
so basically, this is taking that idea. So they ended at Mount Tantif on season 2,
Mount Tantif, yeah.
and they're
Yep.
going deeper, and they're leaning deeper into that Mount Tantis, whatever how you pronounce it. So they're leaning deeper in. The Emperor has shown up early. These are early episodes. Emperor shows up and does his like inspection and makes him go faster, right? Because the Emperor's coming here, so
Yeah, that's what I
they're
was
trying
thinking.
to, right? Like they did that kind of move, and it's leading towards Project Necromancer, which was also mentioned in The Mandalorian, which was also the cloning of the Empire. So there are the Emperor. So we're talking about like these kind of storylines merging together, like what they're working on in Mount.
That's when
From
the
the air-
Mandalorian found the creature in a jar
Yep.
in Mandalorian,
Yes.
which
In
looked like
count.
Snoke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
it's possible Snoke, but it is definitely Gideon, right? So they made multiple copies of Gideon.
Of course, yeah.
And so their idea is possibly now we're making possibly Snoke. They've also then heavily leaned into that Rey has M count, which everyone is interpreting that that's a midichlorian count, or
Omega.
that she is Omega. Sorry, is able to be a little bit force sensitive or take on force. Her midichlorian count does not degrade when mixed or the blood. Alfie, what am I saying wrong?
It's not that she has the M count; it's that she does not reject the
We
Emperor's
can
blood
convey it. Yeah.
that has the M count in it.
So there's no
So-
degradation.
And
to
basically
her.
What do they
what
want
they're
to
trying
What do
to
they want to
do-
do with her?
Long story short is to establish that the Emperor has been trying to clone himself since the times of the Phantom Menace. So it's just didn't come out of nowhere in The Rise of Skywalker. This has been something he's been working on from the very beginning.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
I mean, Plagueis was into mad science. That was integral to the James Luceno Plagueis book. Was that
Correct.
they spent a lot of time goofing around in laboratories in that book.
Right.
That was
And
Plagueis.
well, Palpatine. Well, that and then Palpatine would kill Plagueis and bring him back and kill Plagueis. Like they alluded to the fact that like he would kill him and regenerate him to try to play with and actually perfect
Really,
bringing back life. Am I wrong? That's what I took from
that was
Plagueis.
from the book. Yeah, I don't remember that.
That was from
particular
Plagueis.
point. Okay, yeah, that's effed up.
And it is, but Joe, am I wrong? Like, wasn't that
I
in
believe he
Plagueis
took him
at
to
one point?
the cusp of death, maybe. I think he took him right to the
And then he kept
edge
pulling him back.
and pulling
he
him
kept
back.
pulling him back.
Yeah.
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 that is
Yeah.
very Sith-like.
Wasn't there someone in Legends that, and gosh, I shouldn't probably even bring this up, but wasn't there someone in the Empire that Palpatine kept killing and bringing back that originally designed the Death Star?
I don't know.
Maybe.
Was that
maybe.
a comic? Was that a comic?
No, it was in a novel.
Not that I
I
know
feel-
of, but I
It
bet it
wasn't
exists.
Admiral Dalla. It wasn't Admiral Dalla. She was in the the like the void. I forget what was she in, some dark area where they had the Death Star
The
stuff.
unknown regions. I don't
Yeah.
know.
So, but no, I think wrapping it all up, Stephen. I think they are there. You know, I have been noticing in the first 4 episodes there are things that link to the prequels. There are things that link to the sequels. There are things that link to the original trilogy mentioned, whether it's characters, whether it's creatures, whether it's M count being brought up or necromancer or whatever. So I see that they're using this season to say, okay, let's try to, while we can in this last season, bring it all together and put some things out there to where you have a hint of where these dots connect and things like that. So I think they're doing very well with it. The Dr. Hemlock character I think is fascinating. I think that's great. It came to what Alfie we talked about today, the creatures from the Force Awakens.
How many did you kill? The Rathars.
Rathars.
Yeah, they have Rathars in this episode of Bad Batch. So I mean, they are bringing a little bit of everything, and so yeah, it's I think it's going in the right direction. It's a little darker, a little grittier, a little more real story, I think, than some of the other one-off just Sid adventures. So I feel like it's going in the right direction. But
yeah, they've got a lot of loose ends to tie up. That tends to be the good thing about when they declare that a show is going to be over, is that the last season has to take things a little bit breakneck. They don't have any episodes to waste.
Yeah.
So that's good.
And that's what I'm really hoping is that now that the Bad Batch is back at the end of this episode, that this run of good episodes doesn't end with their return. Because like I said last week, I think it's odd that the best episodes so far have been the ones that they're not in.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't particularly love the Batch either. Like, they're fine. They're fine. Hunter's cool. Hunter's fine.
I think they're fine too, and I think that's part of my dislike for the show is that, for the most part, what's the point of them being the Bad Batch? They could just be regular clones, and most of the story doesn't change.
Don't you say that. What I like about the show is always just the fun factoids and the world building stuff. It's like what I took away from seasons 1 and 2 is, oh, cool, details about Camino, how the Empire cleaned it up, and how we phase out the clone troopers and bring in Imperial clone troopers or stormtroopers. And that's like, and so for me, that's a cool show. That's a worthwhile show, but they've just never made me care about these characters. I think Omega's cute. My daughter likes her and thinks she's super fun, and I agree. But I don't know.
I think the Bad Batch are basically the vessel that allows us to still see Cody, Rex, the Empire being built up, like you said. It's just the glue that's holding it together. I don't think they're the key part of it. I think the meatiness of being between episode 3 and episode 4 is the meaty part of it, right? I mean, I think that's what we're all into it for. So
I think it's an odd vehicle choice because, like, I'm sort of in the same boat you guys are. I remember the first season and just kind of being like, we got a handful of episodes introducing these new characters, and then boom, we spin off into a new series in the time of the rise of the Empire, which is, by the way, what the show. I won't say what this show should be because I don't think you should ever like compare what you want to be getting to what you are getting. But I would say that there's an opportunity, and still is, to do the rise of the Empire as a show. But the thing that actually kind of explores the expansion of the Empire, the birth of the rebellion, the dynamic of Vader, and continues the Clone Wars characters that everyone fell in love with, like what happens to Rex, Cody, and I think that was the opportunity. And so it's kind of odd to have this entire series, which is sort of the animated Clone Wars A-Team, the series.
Yeah, agreed. And I know, Steven, you got to go here in a few, so we won't keep you. But I think I will say that one of the things that stood out to me in this episode, and I'm the old man of the crew here, so I was really into the Marvel comics in the late 70s, early 80s. This Imperial commander or captain or whoever who was running this planet, Lieutenant Man. You'll see if you go back and look, he reminded me definitely of late 70s, early 80s Marvel Comics Imperial people. I mean, he played it. He's not all buttoned up. He's not the British pomp and circumstance. He's kind of got a little trashiness to him, and he's running his own little empire.
A little
And
trashiness.
yeah,
It was very good.
Like General Zhao in the new Avatar: The Last Airbender. Yeah, a little trashiness to him, and Krennic too, in Rogue One, a little trashiness to him.
Yeah, I mean,
he's running his own shop, and a
Yep.
little bit of a imperial hillbilly. We love it.
Yeah, so you'll see that when you watch these, but thank you, Riley. I don't know if you're free to stay for a few to keep talking Bad Batch, or if you've got to go.
I got a few. Yeah, I got a few more. I'll close this out. But yeah, no, Steven, I know you got to go, and then I'll stagger out. I'll let you take the exit, and then I will Irish goodbye after.
Good. I got 5 minutes.
Oh, okay, good. So another thing, and you'll see, guys. I don't know if you guys noticed this or if it was just me, but Crosshair recently has been holding that one hand that keeps getting those shots in it. And having some, but Hemlock's wearing a glove and also holding a hand, and I'm wondering if he's maybe been doing some self-testing, a little trying out the M count.
What do you got?
Go ahead.
Didn't he last season when Crosshairs tried to escape? Didn't he use the gas? Didn't he say that he had been doing testing on himself to become immune to that poisonous gas?
You are correct.
He did say that.
Also, in this episode, did you notice the emphasis when he said, "We shall see"? Yeah.
No,
And
which
he said
scene?
it, Hemlock, as he was exiting out of Lana Say's cell,
Oh,
and
yeah.
the shadow fell on him. It was like just a little frame by frame recreation from The Force Awakens when Snoke says that. I am telling you right now, he is eventually going to be Snoke.
That was a big
What?
Oh,
Yeah.
so there's the hot take right there. See, this is
Oh,
the
wait.
kind of hot
He
take that
works
I'm
in the
looking
cloning
for.
facility.
Your Snoke
He's head of
theory
this
sucks.
project. This theory
Yeah.
totally sucks, but it makes sense that he would be would use himself as the model for the Force sensitive clone.
And Alfie and I were
You're
talking,
talking about
Yeah.
Crosshair.
No.
No, Hemlock.
Hemlock. Okay.
Yeah, the evil scientist, bro. I like the theory. I'm endorsing it personally. I'm behind this theory.
He's got some comedians still around him who all they did was clone. He's
true.
trying to push this envelope to make the Emperor happy, and I think, Alfie called it out, and I started thinking, I can see this. I can see
Very
this.
interesting.
Yeah, and for the love of God, just call it midichlorian count. Don't you cowards? Come on. What
But
is
you got to make the
M-count
connection, right?
nonsense?
So I'm with you, but I feel like you almost have to keep it as an M count for the people on their on ramps, right? So not everybody has caught the Phantom Menace, so they watched Mandalorian. So when they said M count, so they're making the connection to Mandalorian. So
that's right. They did say M-count in Mandalorian too, didn't
right.
they?
So they brought the M count in Mandalorian. So to keep the language, I guess, is
we
similar
abbreviate
as
things in
possible.
modern day, bro. Come on. We collab with each other. We don't collaborate. We collab.
Okay, Joseph. So the past 4 episodes, we have in some way mentioned Meber Gasson.
Here we have.
Did you catch the Easter egg for him this episode?
No, you are kidding.
I
Stop
didn't
it.
see
Do
it,
not-
but I saw someone
Okay,
post
Do
it.
not get my hopes up.
Riley's
Do not
excited.
allow me to dream, Alfie.
One of the animals,
behind
well,
you.
actually, the herd of animals, the Void Striders
Yep.
that were let go, were from his episode, A Sunny Day in the Void. That's what he rode in that episode.
Yeah, the pièce de resistance of all of Clone Wars. That is A Sunny Day in the Void. I think of it as a sunny day in the void of my life. It brought back hope when I watched that episode.
Did you guys catch the porg noise?
I did
I
not.
heard somebody mention
Alfie,
it on
how-
another.
Can I ask Alfie? I have a question for you. How many times have you watched this episode?
Twice.
Because I'm impressed. This is you are at the top 10 Easter eggs you missed in the Bad Batch Screen Rant article, but just off the top of your head. I don't know how you do this. I'm very impressed.
Welcome to
Thank
the Book
you.
of Alfie.
That's where he gets his name, the Book of Alfie. Yeah.
I just watch with subtitles and then start Googling what I see. But yes, I did hear the porg. It's very
Orgish.
easy to pick up. Which
Okay.
would maybe there's off-world porgs. There's off-world Jawas, so maybe porgs
true.
exist somewhere else.
I'm looking at
True.
photos of this Dr. Hemlock right now, and I gotta say, like in terms of the Snoke theory, he has the right features. You
See?
could put them
Mhm.
side by side and do a little layer over, and
We-
I could see how Hemlock could deteriorate into Snoke.
It's not like they invested in a.
I'm
like,
back on
he's
the
a
Snoke theory bandwagon. Oh God,
We're back in,
thought
boys.
I thought it was over, and then they pull me back into Snoke theories.
He's a
Oh,
legit
that's
voice
great.
actor that they have for Hemlock, and
Yep.
yeah, same with Man in this episode. That was Harry Lloyd who played Viserys Targaryen in Game of
That's
Thrones.
right.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
so
true.
like that was. I'm listening to his voice last night, and I'm like, why does this voice sound so familiar? He narrated one of the Game of Thrones books, The Tales of Dunk and Egg, like A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. So like when I was hearing his voice last night, I'm like, who is this? I need to get on IMDb after this episode because I would get distracted if I did it while I'm watching. But
Yeah,
they're pulling some names for Bad Batch, and the animation is top tier.
It
Like
is.
that's one thing that can't be missed on this show is the animation. They've taken that Clone Wars animation and upped it by like 10 notches. It's very good in my opinion. I really like the animation.
well, guys, I have to slide out. It's been real, Riley.
See ya.
Senior
Yep.
fellow geeky stoic. Thanks for having us on, guys. It was good to see you.
Sorry for my
And
tardigrade.
Yes.
over on geekystoics.com, we have our newest piece up about the West Wing and its crossover with Avatar: The Last Airbender. Just a little moral message for everyone to enjoy. And we've got some new pieces up about Zorro and Star Wars Episode 2. So thanks again. We'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
See you, Steven.
See you, Steven.
Was it the big? Is it the Big Wheel of Cheese Day? Is that what it has? Airbender has in common with the West Wing, the Big Wheel of
Something
Cheese.
like that. Yeah, I think that's exactly actually the main takeaway from that piece. 100%. Yep, definitely.
It's such a weird episode, but I love just bringing that up, like the Big Wheel of Cheese.
Did you know? Did you know real quick that the president, played by Mr. Sheen, Martin Sheen,
President Bartlett,
was from New Hampshire, and there was only one real president born in New Hampshire?
Martin Van Buren. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Actually, I actually don't know.
Millard Fillmore or Martin Van Buren. It's one of those two. But there's only one president born in New Hampshire besides Jed Bartlett. So yeah,
that you learn something. This is the level of knowledge that this is why the people come to rule the galaxy.
Right. That's why people show up. They bang down the doors to come and hear what we're talking about. And it seems to me we've covered Lord of the Rings, Dune, West Wing. I mean, we're kind of all over the place here. But
yeah, so we should finish with Star Trek. That's what.
Oh no, I can't do that one. Hyperspace Heroes. I'm thinking that's Brown Leader said the Dad Batch. You know, my son sent me a text today, and he was just like, "That one's a little tough." He said that one got me a little teary eyed.
That most recent one, yeah, sure did. I was a little got a little hot in the face, just a little on the cheek. Just had to take a breath there at the end. It was a beautiful reunion. And I love the like kind of cliffhanger, like where it cut fade to black. You don't really know. It's like Crosshair is kind of like responsible for a lot of crap.
Yeah,
a lot of bad stuff.
Yeah, I felt good that I felt good that I was watching an end scene of Bad Batch, and when it cut to credits, I was like, "Damn it!" I was like, "I want to see what happens here." So that's a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Cody, I know, also dropped a comment. Like it's a very episodic show, but in a good way. I love down to the cliffhanger this week. I think it has me on the edge of my seat, and I kind of like I didn't jump right in on Bad Batch this season, but then I caught up with it this past week. But a lot of that reason was the discourse, like it really seemed to capture the fandom's imagination in a way that the first two seasons have not. So I think that's a good sign.
Well, I think Alfie has mentioned for 2 full seasons, we need more Bad Battery, right? Like when they came in that first episode and they were sliding
Yes.
down the hill on stuff and they were shooting things this way and setting each other up for different shots and different plans. And it was just really cool, all of them working together. We haven't had enough of that in 2 seasons. And I know we're missing Tech right now, but those 3 still, and now Omega, could work well together. And then if you have Rex or Cody or Echo show up, you've got a group that can actually come in and do some really cool things that have been missing. And at the same time, the story depth, like I said, has really increased, I think, in this season. So maybe all that'll come together. But
Yeah, for sure.
Go ahead,
I
Alfie.
have fingers crossed.
Okay, go Alf.
2 things. One, where do you think what were all the animals for?
Oh, I assumed it was for more testing.
Okay, so that's kind of what I thought too. Do you think the cargo freighter that they stole will be the key to getting back to Mount Tannis?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. But although I wonder what draws them back, because your incentive now after the reunion is get the heck out of there.
I mean-
if I had to guess, I would say Omega goes alone.
Well, because she was the one who brought it up, and she wanted to
She'll
go free
be
the
adamant
clones
to go back.
after she freed all the animals.
Oh, I see. Yeah, no, I guess so. That is, you have the remaining brothers. Although I don't know, there's got to be some more. There's got to be some more pizzazz there, because if there was, maybe it's Lama Say. Am I saying that right? Maybe it's rescuing her, because you kind of want that personal connection instead of sort of a generic, oh, go save the clones. Maybe like if Rex got captured or something like that, that would really up the ante, and I could see something like that happening.
Yeah, I could see them debating about going, and they say no, and she goes off on her own. So then they rally the troops to go, which will lead a big battle at Mount Tannis, which would give the Emperor the reason to move everything to Exegol.
Are you saying like a clone trooper versus stormtrooper battle, Alfie?
Please, for the love of God, let's have that.
Oh my God, dude. That would be awesome. I'm getting fired up now, actually.
I bring this up all the time, and I know it's never going to happen, but how upsetting is it that you cannot go buy one of those stormtroopers with the sweet-ass goggles and the poncho today?
Oh, the cloak. Yeah, those would be...
They'd be flying off the shelves. I do not understand that. And it got me to thinking we still never got the clone trooper in the winter gear from last season.
True.
That was like 2 years ago.
You know, one of the, I think, greatest advantages I've ever had in my life is the fact that I never jumped in on the 3 3/4 collecting. I became a Lego guy, and I've never felt so gratified by the fact that I'm a Lego guy, because, man, the Lego is killing it.
They pop them out, dude. I'm surprised. Yeah, they pop them out quick.
I'm traveling for work right now. This is how much of a nerd I am. Wait for it. I'm traveling for work right now, and I literally brought with me, just for stress relief.
Oh man!
And these series, like, this is their kind of desk display series. They have this one. They have a trash compactor. They have a few, but it's like iconic scenes, and they are perfect. It makes me so happy. Not that I'm gloating over the fact that you poor Hasbro guys have nothing ever, but
I just don't understand why they refuse to market when it would be, the timing is right, when it's hot. Mm-hmm. If you had those toys on the shelf on Friday, they would be gone. You would sell them. When they come out 3 years later, they end up at Ollie's because nobody cares.
Yeah,
this is where I argue with you. I know you would get them, and I know that there would be collectors that would get them, but would it be worth the production and then the amount to go into the production? Are they really selling as much as we think that they would? There are people that will buy them. I'm not saying that there's not, but if the cost-benefit analysis, is it worth it?
We can have this argument, but my argument is not that. My argument is, why don't you have them available when people are interested?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Lego's done with their stuff, is like that diorama that Riley was showing. They've tapped into us wanting to display. Like, I have all the helmets. I might be able to. I have all the helmets sitting on the wall over there. Like, I love that helmet series. Like
Yeah.
the Lego Star Wars has been tapped into kind of what the fans want, and then like I'm just like, I'm done buying Legos for a little bit, and then new stuff comes out, and I'm just like, I got a couple
Yeah.
Amazon gift cards here, whatever.
Yeah.
I'll just put some more shelves up around here.
Yeah.
I'm like 75% Lego, or maybe I'd say I'm like, at this point, I'd say I'm like 65% Lego, 35 Hasbro. Thanks to these guys.
Oh, yeah.
These guys
Yeah.
got
Because
me
there's
into
nothing on the
Hasbro.
shelves.
But your Hasbro is also all Ollie's discount Hasbro. So it's
not this stuff over here. This is
Okay.
the original when you guys first dosed me up, when Joe first met me on a corner and told me, hey, check
First
out
one's
these Black
free.
Series figures.
That's right. First taste is free, brother. Then you start paying. Yeah, well, I'm glad. I feel like we're all in speaking in unison here that those first 4 episodes have been pretty good of Bad
Yeah.
Batch, and I do hope. I mean, there's 15 episodes, right? So we're a quarter of the way in. We haven't seen Cad Bane, Saj Ventress, Fennec Shan. We haven't seen Chopper, Hera, Darth Vader. All those people were in the preview of some sort, right? So all those people are still to come in the last 11 episodes, and I'm sure even more. I mean, there's
Boba
other
Fett.
things out.
There
Fett.
was
Okay.
there was one point too, Joe, that I wanted to make on Bad Batch. I'm always like talking about side topics, but on Bad Batch, it's like there's no way Omega is going to forget about anything along the way. It's like her and Crosshair were in danger for their lives, and she wanted to go get Batcher, like no matter what. So like you guys bringing up that she's going to want to save the other clones makes sense, because even when she was in her own personal danger, when she was like a prisoner, essentially, she cared about Crosshair. So she got Crosshair. Then when they're in trouble, she cared about Batcher. So they got Batcher. Now they're together. So it's like what you guys are saying makes a lot of sense to me, that Omega kind of does control it, because it's like Crosshair's like, there's no way out of this. We can't get him. Like if we want to live, we need to go this way. And she's
Right.
just like, no, I'm going and getting him no matter what. And he's just like, all right, let's go. But he did get to start gun smoking some people though,
Which is what he loves to do.
He missed a lot though.
He did. Well, I won't. I know Riley said he would be the next one to exit out, but I feel like we've hit all that stuff, and I know you guys had a great combo before I hopped on. I'll go around the room and just we'll cash out here. I'll start with Brent and Brent. Besides working on your Star Wars Legion, anything you want to close up shop with tonight?
No, I just made two other little dioramas that I'm gonna put the necromancer eggs on.
It's actually while we were talking, right? It was,
Oh yeah. It's basically, so just so you know, Riley, it's basically aluminum foil, put some hot glue, and then put hot glue onto some cardboard. And I'm going to wrap them and then paint them to make them look like the trees. But yeah, so I have a total of 4 of them that I've put together.
Are you kind of modeling it off of the Jedi Fallen Order game?
So here's more of what's going on behind you.
Nice.
So the foam are like the mountains, like the Jedi Fallen Order, and then the trees that I'm just making right now are more like the Clone Wars, where you see Mother Talzin and all the witches. So it's kind of a mix of both of them. So you're going to have some mountain ranges where you're coming down, and then you come down in the middle. I have a couple other little places that I'm going to paint green for the neon green, and I have a couple like lava flow ideas for the green rivers that they have for the Night Sisters.
That's awesome.
The man, the myth, the legend.
It's my nerddom, right? Like that's what I was asking you. Is there anything else? Like, so I would say Lego would be like where your secondary nerddom is that keeps you into it.
Yep.
Making new stuff is kind of what. And then since I've made this room my hobby room, and my wife has allowed me to like keep it all in one location, so I just kind of hobby while we talk. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Alfie, how about you? Anything to close up with?
Yeah, I hope the momentum keeps up on this show. And Brent was talking about his game. I'll talk about mine. We are hitting a major update of
Boss
episode
Ness.
1 material for Galaxy of Heroes. Excited to see where that goes as we get closer to the movie coming back out.
Is Boss Ness actually out?
Boss Nass is out. So
Okay.
it first started with the Stap, which was
Okay.
the
Yep.
little speeder that the droids, which is
Yep.
the first vehicle in the
I was
game.
gonna say, yeah.
And yeah, Boss Nass is out. Jar Jar is supposed to be a galactic legend, and then Queen Padme eventually will be out with a whole team of her own.
Nice.
So, being a lot of new content. Anybody that plays, look for me. I'm Rule the Galaxy SW, and
Change your name.
yeah, part of Kenobi's Bold Ones.
Okay. Good.
Make me re-download that game.
It's awesome. There is they not to entice you, D-Doc, but they did come out with light speed bundles for $10. You get like a dozen characters fully maxed.
Oh man,
yeah, it's worth it.
I put a lot of time in on that game a while ago.
I'm glad you guys all have these side hobbies. This is great. Riley, where are we staying tonight? Where are we out of town at?
This is the beautiful Comfort Inn in Montgomery, Alabama,
Mm.
right outside of Maxwell Air Force Base. Nothing but the best for your government rate hotels.
That's good. Hey, we need to. We've been talking to Steve and to Scott and trying to get them to ever go to the ICCC in Nashville.
I know.
You guys all need to, and now Steven, you guys all need to jump in together on a bandwagon and go check that out. I think you guys will really like it.
We're this close. I'm this close to convincing him. The trouble is this year. I think it's trying to remember. Is it this
October?
April or
October.
Because they moved it. Yeah. See, that was the time. So, yeah, I'm literally deploying beginning of October, so I will not be in these United States, sadly, because I've been wanting to go to that show, man. Other than like going back to Celebration because I've missed the last few, like that's top of my list, just because I love Nashville and I always hear great things about the show.
Well, you guys would love it. You know, be safe out there when you do get deployed and all that kind of stuff. So, look, I mentioned it when I hopped on. You know, Rebel Force Radio, Steve Glosson, you, Scott Rifen, you guys are the reason why my son and I started this show. So it seems very weird because you're my son's age, but if that, you might even be younger than him. But I mean, just going back to when you and I had one conversation off by ourselves on a show. Just always love what you've done. You've always been a great person in the community, and I can't thank you enough for taking the time a few different times to come and be a part of what we do at Rule the Galaxy, because it brings back great memories of all those years when I was running errands, driving, cutting the grass, whatever, and I'd be listening to Riley and Bethany and all their stories, and then so thank you again. And is there anything you want to promote or anything like that with Geeky Stoics or anything you're coming up with?
No, thank you so much. Very kind words. I really appreciate it. And I am very honored to be listed amongst some of the greats of Star Wars podcasting. And I say that I'm not even joking. That's a big deal. I said at the beginning of the show, but like my maybe this is a good way to close out the show. My initial exposure to the world of Star Wars podcasting was Jason and Jimmy. It was the Force Cast back in the day, now Rebel Force Radio. But like that it's the proverbial I stepped into a larger world, and that was the moment where I discovered kind of larger Star Wars fandom, and that's what gave way to going to Celebration and meeting some of my best friends. And listen, half of my wedding party were all guys that I met through Star Wars fandom. And that's the truth of it. So I'm just glad that there are guys like you kind of carrying the torch. I will, anytime you invite me, and sometimes when you don't, I will 100% go and crash Rule the Galaxy. Always enjoy talking to you guys. So I appreciate you. Yeah, it's weird. but in a good weird, stepping outside my comfort zone of just kind of talking about Star Wars news of the week. I did it for 10 years, but the step into like talking about some of the deeper philosophy behind these stories has been awesome. So I'll part ways by saying geekystoics.com, and I'll do a specific plug. Our YouTube channel, a few weeks ago, I posted a video. Took me about 2 weeks to shoot and edit. It was a blast. I went out to a swamp in the middle of rural Alabama and I shot, and it's called Do or Do Not Explain. And it is my thesis, my essay essentially on why that quote matters, and also it's sort of like a shots fired at people who make fun of that quote, because you've been around Star Wars fan and you're like, of course you can try technically, like, but I won't do the whole bit. I won't explain it, but I will say that is available on our YouTube channel. It is Do or Do Not. There is no try explained, and I think people listening would get a kick out of it.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to go check it out myself.
Shot on location in Dagobah.
I'll end up with this. D-Doc, I'll let you close up with some things, but thank you again for running while I was running late, and appreciate the times you've stepped in and been a great host. And I know you sit there and say, "Oh, I'm nervous. I don't want to do this." D-Doc, you do a great job. So plus you make great videos that everybody, my wife watches your videos on Instagram and YouTube, and I go, "Do you watch any of my stuff?" "No, but D-Doc's funny. He's got some cool stuff." I'm like, "Okay, thanks."
It's the pre-show jitters. That's all.
Anything you want to close up with?
Yeah, I mean, number one, I'm fired up that Riley is traveling with Legos. That like really, it really like pumps me up, and it solidifies the hobby that I have here, because people still buy me. I just turned 33 this month, and people still buy me Legos for my birthday, because to me, I encourage anyone to do Legos because it's a good way to relax your mind, throw on some music or a movie, build some Legos.
Amen.
One final thought on the topic of episode 1. To show that I have my Star Wars fandom blinders on, I'm talking to my buddy who has a son, not newly born son. He's about to be 2. And we're talking about going and seeing Phantom Menace together. And I'm like, all right, like I'll bring David and you can bring Ben and stuff. And we're talking about it. And then he was like, he named his son Ben, of course. And he's like, you know what? He's like, Ben's probably too young to go see it. I'm like, yeah, he's 2 years old, actually. Like, what are we talking about right now? It's like you just want to bring your kids into this world. It's the funniest thing. So, yeah.
It is. And I'm getting to do that with my grandson. We were having lightsaber battles last weekend, and he thinks it's the coolest thing. And he's going to be over again tomorrow night, and I'm going to be bringing those out. We're going to be chasing each other around the house doing that. So, and another quick fun plug, Alfie and Brent will be at Indiana Comic Con towards the end of March at the same weekend. Yeah, same weekend I'll be visiting D-Doc out near Philadelphia, and then hanging with him before we go see the Italian national soccer team. So, go ahead, Brent.
I was just going to say you missed the beginning. I'm not going to be able to make it to the Comic-Con.
Okay, well, I might hand the pass off to Joey then. How's that? We'll do that.
That's perfect.
Okay, but Riley, thank you again. D-Doc, Brent, Alfie, thank you for always being the rock that keeps this show going, and I really appreciate it. To our listeners, our followers, everybody, thank you so much. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out on our podcast. And until next week, episode 250 with Steve Sansweet, may the Force be with you.